Wait for some people to tune in. Yes, yes. Gonna wait 2 more minutes, and then we'll start. Boom. What's up, Manson? Um, as y'all can see, I'm gonna do the live streams a little bit earlier because it's Sunday, and Sunday is still fun day. I'm gonna talk about the last couple of weeks, what's been going on in Parliament and government, actually, because we've kind of been together these last couple of weeks. Starting with, well, actually, We swore in the 26th of November, and my first task as an MP was not even to come to the building and be in a meeting, but it was actually to travel. We went to Holland 2 weeks ago. We went over there for the 35th Congress, I believe, for the Inter Expo, regards to the charter and het statuut van de Koninkrijk. And it was very interesting. There were a lot of speakers, and it was like a 3-day program. And then on the last day, there was also an event scheduled by the Council of State, the Raad van State, that was also very nice. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the Congress, what we did in Holland, etc. Because the whole point of it was that the charter actually is, I think it's the 70th year, yeah, that it's existing. I think the anniversary was on the 15th of December. So that was kind of like the whole reasoning behind it. But it was also nice to hear from the Council of State, the Raad van State, because they wrote an advice to the Kingdom Council of Ministers. It's a very long advice, actually. This is right here. And the gist of the advice was also like the topic of the Inter Expo. And it was basically to give all people with a Dutch passport, so not only those who live in Holland, but also those who live in Curacao and Aruba and here in St. Martin, for example, to give them voting rights when it comes to the Tweede Kamer in Holland. And this was kind of interesting because this was never done before, and it was actually not Holland didn't want it. If you look at the kieswet in Holland, it specifically says that people with a Dutch passport and who are living in Holland, they are the ones who have the right to vote when it comes to the Tweede Kamer. And also people in Holland who work abroad, for example, but still are in dienst for Holland, and also their families. But mostly, people who just live in Holland. So if we go to Holland and we live there, then we get to vote because, we're registered there. But if we, for example, living in St. Martin, who also have a Dutch passport, we are not allowed to vote when, the Tweede Kamer has their elections. But the whole idea behind it was that when you look at the charter, which is a law that came after the grondwet, the Constitution of Holland. It came in 1954. If you read the charter, it basically says that on the kingdom level, we also have, for example, our government, our legislator. And the ironic thing about it, and actually the point that the Raad van State was trying to make, is that we, as people, who are part of the kingdom, St. Martin, Aruba, and Curacao mostly, we are also Dutch. And according to the law, according to the highest law in our country, actually the charter, our kingdom council of ministers consists of mostly Dutch ministers, but then also the GEFMINs, the ministers plenipotentiary from Aruba, Curacao, and St. Martin. But when it comes to the legislative part of it, the charter, it basically appoints the Tweede Kamer, the Staten-Generaal, to be the legislator, so to say. But then the point that the Raad van State is trying to make is that that's nice, but when it comes to the voting of who is the legislator, we don't have a say as countries within the kingdom. And it's supposed to be fair. That's the whole idea, the principle behind the charter. So they came up with the advice to give us all voting rights. And that can actually be done with an easy change in the kieswet in Holland. I think it's Article B1. Yeah, Article B1 of the kieswet. And with a simple change in that law, all of a sudden, when Holland has their elections for the Tweede Kamer, we in St. Martin would also be able to get the vote. And that was kind of like the discussion that was going on for the next 3 days. You had various people from various countries, politicians, but also scholars, a lot of lawyers, and it was a nice discussion. And I think that at this point, the discussions have been had, and this is my personal opinion. It's kind of a consensus. When you look at the Council of State, it's kind of a consensus that everybody thinks that this is the right way, the fair way to go about it. But the question is the how. And then it comes down to the political will. For us in St. Martin, it's nice to say that we want to vote for in Holland. But, for example, what if Holland says, all right, but then we also want to vote when it comes to you guys' parliament? So those discussions still need to be had. But I think if the political will is there, and especially coming from Holland, because one thing about the expo that I also, saw is that indeed there were a lot of, scholars, etc., but not too many MPs. from Holland, and when it comes down to these decisions actually having to be made, whether or not it's a change in the charter, the Tweede Kamer is going to have to be the one to push it as the legislator of the kingdom. So at some point, we're going to have to gap that bridge and start dealing with our colleagues in Holland directly, the ones in the Tweede Kamer, to actually, be our voices. But nice discussions, and I think that that's not the last we heard of it. And I think that as faction leader this time, I will be in the Committee of Kingdom Relations, and this is something that I think that we should pick up and just not let it die. Every year they have meetings about the charter, congresses about the charter, and it's been a while that we all know about the democratic deficit, etc. And at some point we need to do something about it. So at this point we all talk about electoral reform, but this is then electoral reform on the highest level, and it's going to be a kingdom thing. So that's going to be nice to see how that goes. Yes, and then this week we, which was our first meetings, coming in as new MPs. On Wednesday, we started off with the budget meeting for the 2025 budget, 2024-2025 budget. First we had the agenda points were, I believe, the composition of the committees and ad hoc committees. Then after that was the ontwerplanverordening. And throughout the days, we saw many questions coming from not only the opposition side but also from the coalition side. And to my personal opinion, I do think that we kind of rushed it. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the budget, the committee side of it, I also understand that there's several things to go about it. We have deadlines, we have the CFT, etc. So I do commend the ministers to being on point and being proactive this time. I find that the meetings went pretty smooth. And now we are supposed to go into the public handling of the budget, and I myself chose to not be too vocal because, of course, it's a brand new government. They've been there for less than 4 weeks, and yet we already went into a budget. So that's something that to my opinion is commendable. But also you need to give them some space to actually be able to work, because how realistic is it to be able to assess within 3 weeks what all you're going to do for the next 4 years. So yeah, I'm glad that the committee meetings went all right, and I'm excited for the public meeting, because in that meeting we will have a lot to say. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. Also, when it comes to PFP, our ministers, shout out to Minister Gums and Minister Gums. Now when I mention them, I need to do it by the first name basis. Minister Patrice Gums, I believe he's currently in town these days. There was a whole back and forth in the budget committee meeting about his so-called raffle. When it comes to his little booth that he wanted to do in the weekend, but it was more along the lines of being able to go out there, and although it's holiday season, still being able to interact with the people, and not only in a festive manner, which government and parliament has done, but also on stuff that concern them. And I think that's why he wanted to go out and have a one-on-one, or at least opportunity, give everybody the opportunity to have a one-on-one with him, regarding, for example, their concerns in Vromi, whether it's domain related or permits related. It's they could have just come and see the minister, and I believe he's still here today. So aside from all the political stuff that happened within the meeting, I believe MP spoke about it's a gambling event, etc. Which is all just legally wrong. But I do want to take this moment to also commend him to taking the weekend before Christmas and dedicating it to going out there and hearing the concerns of the people. And I'm sure, and he will also follow up. So shout out to Minister Patrice Gums, Minister Melissa. Well, the budget committee meeting, I believe her ministry went the smoothest. That's kind of like her swag. She just goes through the answers. That was refreshing. And I believe for her ministry, I think that we need to make some changes in the budget, because for the ministry that goes over our youth and who are basically our future, I believe that the budget has been cut the most for the Ministry of ECYS. And I, personally, we spoke about this, I think, last budget as well, where we asked, why is this the case? And I think at this point in time, we need to put our money where our mouth is and actually push some money towards the ministry to actually see some results. So that's why I'm also excited for the public meeting when it comes to the budget, because if not all concerns are met, then indeed you will see some amendments being proposed, and hopefully passed to actually, push, some support towards the corners of government that, we actually need to. So yeah, I believe for education, she's working on the higher education law, where we're trying to roll that out within a couple of months. And for myself, when it comes to Parliament, I'm still looking at the screening law. Of course, I believe there's a plan for electoral reform, and where I believe a law firm was going to be hired, and basically the screening law was going to be part of that. But I believe that it needs to be a separate landsverordening. I believe that as Parliament, we can take that task up for ourselves and look at our own constitution and see how we would want to go about it. Curacao and Aruba both have their versions, and I think that if we look at those and if we look at what we want according to our constitution, we can also make a version that's suitable for St. Martin. So I'm excited to start on that trajectory, when we go into 2025. And yeah, shout out to MP Ludmila de Weaver. She still was there every day, although she had the flu, and she really did have the flu. I was sitting next to her, and that AC was on her head. It was bad, and we were there for 12 hours, 2 days. So, but we made it. We made it, and right now it's the holidays, Christmas this week. So, wishing everybody happy holidays as well. And I don't know if anybody has plans to go abroad. I'm going away for 1 week to Curacao to see my family. It's been a while. Taking my daughter with me. And yeah, I'll be back here the first week of January. And I believe within the second or the third week, which is a meeting week, we are supposed to start with the public debates on the budget. But I don't know if those are going to be the first meetings that we're going to go into coming into the year 2025, or if we're going to have other meetings before that, other public meetings or other committee meetings. So, once we get those convocations, we will send them out, and I will keep you guys updated. And yeah, I believe that that was the update for the last couple of weeks when it comes to Le Parti for Progress. Let me see here. I'm not as tech savvy as Melissa, so I'm just doing it from my house on my laptop. Melissa usually has a whole setup with a mic and three Bluetooth headphones and lights, and yeah, I got big shoes to fill. Let's see if I can. Trying to see if I can see the comments. No, I don't see any questions. Well, guys, you can always reach us, when you text the PFP page or us personally, So if you guys have any questions regarding, what all PFP is planning for the next year, I believe that Melissa and Patrice, yeah, they have a hard task ahead of them. But given how the budget went this week, and also how Parliament reacted to it, and like I said, not only coalition but also opposition, I don't really feel the fight. As if I compare it to the last time we were in Parliament where we were opposition, there it was a real, you're on that side and we're on this side. But this time around, everybody seems to have the right intentions. Everybody seems to want to be proactive and ask the right questions. And as a new and dynamic parliament, I think that that's key. And it was also noted in Holland that we are very young compared to the parliaments in other countries. And I think that now is the time for us to actually show that that actually does make a difference. We as the youth, so to say, always say, the elders need to pass the baton. I think if we look at our composition of our parliament at the moment and the composition of our government, our council of ministers, not only do the women have a majority in the council of ministers, but we are all also relatively young. So I'm excited to see how that goes. And yeah, I believe after the year of turmoil that we had, the roller coaster, I believe that this is something that St. Martin does deserve, a new face and a new change. So yeah, let's see how it goes, guys. Again, I want to wish everybody, happy holidays and Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year's when the time comes. and see you guys back in 2025. I'll be doing the live stream on the weekend after the meeting weeks, so that our memory is still a little bit fresh, and then we'll just catch up on what's been happening in that week and everything else going on with the Party for Progress, with the Project for Progress, and with our ministries and with the whole of government. So thanks, guys, once again for tuning in, and y'all have a fun day Sunday.